So we watched Enemy Mine. I've restarted. It's good.
Oh, you restarted? Okay, yes. So we watched Enemy Mine. All of this should stay in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Enemy Mine. How did we choose Enemy Mine?
I don't remember anymore. Do you?
Well, I watched it with Steve, who was like, "Why are we watching this?" And I said, "I suggested it to Josh," and he said, "You suggested it."
No.
I think so.
So did Steve not like it either?
Steve didn't like it. Did you not like it?
Oh no, I really enjoy. I saw that movie when I was very young.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I liked it a lot.
Okay.
I learned subsequently, since we watched it, that it bombed pretty bad.
Yes, it's actually quite famous for that, I think.
Which
famous.
Which is a shame. But why don't we? Because clearly no one's seen it ever. Would you, since you selected it for viewing, would you tell us a little bit about what the hell happens in Enemy Mine?
Yes, Enemy Mine is essentially about racist Han Solo, played by Dennis Quaid, who shoots down an alien that the human race is at war with. The alien is a Drac, who is sort of looks like a Star Trek alien in that he's a human with like lots of prosthetics that makes him look like he has sort of bones coming out of his face. And they crash land on essentially a habitable but uninhabited planet, and there's no one else there, and they have to survive together, and they grow to like each other and survive together, and then the alien, who's called Jerry in this film, Jerry becomes pregnant. Because
no fault of the humans.
Yeah, which they talk about and everything, which is good, I guess. Essentially, the Drac are sort of hermaphrodites, I guess. They only need themselves to breed. So Jerry becomes pregnant and then has a baby. Jerry dies during childbirth, leaving the Dennis Quaid character to raise the Drac baby. Then it turns out that the planet isn't completely unoccupied. It's occupied by illegal miners who essentially use Drac slaves to do their mining operations. Through a sort of convoluted event, they kidnap the kid. What's the kid's name? Is it
Zamis?
Zamis, yeah.
Yeah.
And their god is Shazam or Shizm or something. I could have written something down, but I didn't. Shit. The kid is kidnapped, and then the Dennis Quaid character, the racist Han Solo, whose arc has been to become not racist, goes and tries and rescues the kid, and that's where it ends. Is that right?
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. In it, your repeated use of "and then"
it's very
much
like
what
that.
happens in the movie.
It's very like that. I've seen this film before about 15 years ago, and I watched it again, and I was certain that, because I could remember what happened, I was certain that it was going to end with these miners taking the kid away, and he was going to be just left alone. And then suddenly this whole act that I couldn't remember started, where he, after spending years and years and years on this island, he becomes on this planet, this island Earth, on this planet that
Space Island,
where he's been a Robinson Crusoe type. He goes back and he becomes a fighter pilot again, and then he escapes and there's this whole other unexpected act of trying to rescue his sort of adopted stepson, and it just sort of comes out of nowhere.
The movie, just rewatching it, the movie feels to me like it's about 3 hours too short for all of the things that it's trying to cover. The core of the movie, the best part of the movie, is the human character Davich and Jerry.
And Jerry,
that's everything. That's the story.
Yes.
And then like there's all this other stuff that's happening, and I think that you can tell where the director of the film was interested in focusing his attention, because everything that you said from the child's kidnap on, it feels like the editor sat on the fast forward button and forgot to get off of it. All the way up to the end of the movie, you know, it just started. It goes into light speed.
Yeah,
stop.
Everything about the movie. If you look at the poster, if you read the blurb, it looks like, and I obviously thought again, even on the second time viewing, that it was mostly going to be about Davidge and Jerry, not only learning to coexist, but actually learning to love each other. And that is a huge element of it, but it feels like it's been compressed by a bit at the beginning and a bit at the end that don't really need to be there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there's a lot, I think, that didn't need to be there. One thing that's funny, and I don't know if you had ever discovered this, but it's kind of an example of studio executives meddling into a film. But the whole subplot with the miners was added apparently because somebody thought that the title Enemy Mine was going to be confusing, and audiences wouldn't know how to take it if there weren't actual miners involved in the film.
No, that can't be true. That can't be true.
Well, okay, so I read it on the internet, so it may not be.
You hear the thing about King George?
But it is on the Wikipedia and IMDb pages for this movie, so it's not like I'm pulling it out of my ass here. But, I mean, you hear things about that. You hear things like that coming out of Hollywood all the time. It's the same reason there's a giant robot spider in Wild West. There was an executive somewhere who had been trying for years to get a giant robot spider shoehorned into some movie, any movie that he could. And he kept floating, I think we should have a giant robot spider in this movie. I think, no, Steve, shut up. There's not going to be a robot spider, right? And then apparently Wild West, that was the point in his career where he had amassed enough clout to say, no, we're doing a robot spider this time. I've been waiting for it this long. And then the movie has a giant robot spider.
And it's better for it. There would be a whole gap if it wasn't there, that giant metal spider.
Well, yeah,
and it was just Will Smith facing off with a man in a wheelchair. All he can do is roll backwards.
I mean, that's an exciting climax.
But it's a rap battle, and this guy can fucking drop it. It's an ambush. You wouldn't expect it. No, I thought with the title it was because Wolfgang Petersen is German. He got to the premiere and he looked at the banner and he thought it was going to spell enemy, M-E-I-N. Like, enemy mine! What?
Oh my god.
I never really understood the title either. Because it almost sounds like, again, trying to go back to when I first saw it, again, it was probably one of those films I missed the first, 2 minutes of. I definitely watched it on TV when I first saw it. Like, what the hell is this?
Me too.
And I just assumed that he had, or I guess I remembered wrongly, that he had hit an enemy mine, like a suborbital mine, let's say. His spaceship had hit a mine.
When I was a little kid, I was convinced that it was enemy mined,
Enemy mined, yeah.
I think, well, the thing was based on either a novel or novella.
Yeah, right.
And I think the title just refers to the first person acknowledgement, this is my enemy, or enemy mine, that I'm subjected to living to on the planet. And that could either be from the perspective of the human or the Drac. It's kind of poetic.
It's what makes it more literary, is getting the words the wrong way round.
Yes, if Yoda had written it.
Yes. Shrew the taming of. Shrew the taming of. Yeah. Well, you really liked it, and I quite liked it in a weird way. I don't like the film, but I really like some of the ideas there.
Yes, well, there are problems.
There are problems.
Definitely.
I think we should start by sort of talking about... So I also did my due diligence and barely gave a cursory scan to the Wikipedia page and found that it had the production had been plagued by problems namely that it had gone into photography, and then the original director was fired.
I guess they had to reshoot a lot of it.
Wolfgang Petersen, when he came on board at the time, was still directing The Neverending Story. So they sort of brought him on to rescue the project. And I think you can sort of see a lack of authorship throughout the film because of that. Because it wasn't really his, right? He was brought on to do someone else's thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think there were too many hands in the pot, certainly, and that again, that's just evident in the whole final fast forward act of the film. That's really just kind of tacked on and rushed. Even when he takes Zamnis back to the home planet.
Yeah.
And fulfills his oath that he made to his friend, right, on his deathbed. It's such an aside. It's like a little blurb at the end of the movie. It's like you get through this action sequence, he escapes with the kid, and then there's like this big gorgeous matte painting with a narration that says, "By the way, I did that one thing I was supposed to." And then the cast starts rolling. It's like, God damn.
Yeah, my best friend ever, as he lay dying, made me swear to be able to recite his bloodline, his family line, family line.
170 generations back, he had to memorize all that.
He had to memorize all of that, which he did. It was a really important moment for these two characters that essentially loved each other, and then, like you say, it's just, yeah, he did that,
and I did it,
and I did it, and
I think it's a conspiracy. I think what happened was he got to the ceremony and then forgot the words halfway through. He was reciting and got halfway through,
just like Alan,
and I just did it, and it was successful. It was great. It went perfectly. What really happened was they stoned him.
Or no, what really happened was, there was nothing to say that this species really held that in high regard. Maybe it was just Jerry's thing. It was important to Jerry. So Dennis Quaid went to this planet and started doing it, and everyone was like, "What are you doing?" I can recite 170 names of one family. Like, wow, why?
It turned out to be this really important tradition, but only in Jerry's family, who were nuts.
Jerry was like the equivalent of a Mormon of the Drac. There's a very small minority where most people just do not understand what you're talking about.
The rest of them, we're a highly advanced technological society. We've left those sorts of practices far behind. What do you do?
Yeah. Yeah, it was missing sort of a bit of context, really. It needed to sort of establish that this was a bit important or something.
Well, I felt like we could have gotten rid of the entire minor kidnapping sequence, and it could have just been their rescue and then his attempts to get the kid back to the home planet, and you could have had a whole very thick section of film devoted to that. But I think that would have felt rushed too, because they devoted so much time to the two principal characters, and rightly so. That's the best thing of the movie.
Yeah.
But it's just it either wanted to be like a movie cut into two parts or something very very long, really epic. You needed a lot more time to tell this one in the form that we get it.
Yeah, I think with the end, so the beginning, I thought that, okay, you have the bits with Dennis Quaid shooting down these Drac ships and going, yeah, I love killing.
Gotcha.
And he's bantering with his friend Joey about a date that he's about to go on. And
as he's wiping these things out.
Yes.
Yeah.
They have a quip about how they had some derogatory term for the lady he was going to see, because apparently she was a little overweight and she'd lost some weight. And I can't remember what he called her, but I remember he's flying and they're wearing these really silly bubblehead space helmets
that don't shut properly.
Oh yeah, and he's sitting there flying. It was kind of like Last Starfighter, but he's flying along and he's shooting these ships out. Oh, you're gonna go out with Cannonball Ass Annie, huh? And they're
it was like that.
it's like they're a couple of guys at this mundane job.
Like he should have been cracking open a tab or something.
Yeah, it's kind of fucking the tension in the scene, and then like right after that, one of their ships explode, and then Dennis Quaid's like, "I'd better get serious now." Oh no! I mean, they have that shot. Then they shoot down the Drac ship, and then Dennis Quaid also crashes his ship. I guess because he wanted to confirm he had the kill, but. There was no reason for him to crash on the planet as well, except for I'm crazy and I'm going to follow you.
It's like you remember in World War II all those dogfights where, like the Stuka was about to crash into the hill, but then the Sturmovik was right behind it. Like I've got to make sure it crashes. I've got to make sure.
Well, yeah, and I think they were trying to convey like kind of a wild fanaticism.
Yes, that's fair enough. Yeah,
which kind of falls apart because a minute ago they were just.
They didn't care.
Bagging about Cannonball Ass Annie, and not taking really anything serious at all. And then right after they crash, Joey's critically wounded or mortally wounded rather in this crash, and he pulls him out. And then they have this heartfelt scene where Joey's telling him, "Don't call her Cannonball Ass Annie anymore. It hurts her feelings, and she doesn't like it." It's like, is this supposed to be emotional? I've only known this guy for 30 seconds. It was fast, go.
Don't call her Cannibal.
I wish I could remember what they call
it. It is like that, though. It is like...
It's something really awful, man. It's just... You have no heart. But, yeah, I mean...
It's such a weird thing for your deathbed advice to be. Remember when we blackballed Bergen from the country club? We shouldn't have done that. He's all right. I mean...
Well, it's weird. It's like... They're trying to tell you that these two characters have like a history together. Maybe they've been flying for years. Maybe they went to academy together.
Mm-hmm.
But the only shared experience that they have that they can call back to that the audience knows about is Cannonball Ass Annie. And that's it. And the whole opening, it has Dennis Quaid's narration, and he's telling everything to you that's just obvious.
Yes.
As I was watching it, I was thinking, what if they just had like the entire intro to this movie with no dialogue at all, no narration,
agree.
just visual storytelling, all the way up until he has to start talking to the Drac for the first time. No talking at all.
You could have even had the credits at the beginning, sort of on the shot of them crashing. You could have had like a wide shot of these two spaceships, falling to the ground and
just
their parachutes deploying.
Yeah,
and then they crash, and then you know what's happening. Okay, these two people are enemies. Maybe they land and they start fist fighting or something. I don't know. Maybe you don't even have to do that. But it didn't. Yeah, the whole beginning didn't really tell us that much. Other than Dennis Quaid's a bit of a dickhead.
David's just kind of a misogynist. He's kind of an ass. He's not very sensitive to fuller-bodied women. Any of the narration in this movie, it doesn't add. It really took away from me.
Yeah,
it made me start asking questions right in the beginning.
Because it's so inconsistent as well in its presence. Like it comes in a bit at the beginning, and there's quite a long time where we don't have it.
Yeah, you can almost feel as though there's someone removed from the shooting process.
Yes.
Watching the edited film and saying, I don't understand what's happening here. Put some narration in. Explain this. Audiences are going to be confused. And also, I don't like the title. Mine what? But even when the narration was added in an attempt to clarify, it made me ask questions. Like the first thing they said in the movie was, the nations of Earth are finally at peace, and we've turned our sights to the stars. And then right after that, he starts talking about these disgusting alien squatters that have colonized these other planets, and we're going to get those bastards out of there. And I'm like, okay, so the nations on Earth are at peace, and are now applying none of the lessons they've learned as they branch out to the stars. It's like we've all decided we can agree together to be jingoistic assholes and unite against aliens now. Just leave it out. don't have that. As you say, just start the movie, 2 ships crash, boom, and get going from there.
Yeah. Yeah, because the message of the movie of, I suppose, friendship and don't be racist, it really doesn't depend on all humans being against all Drek, even. You know, it's told through Davidge. It could just be, you know, we know that this individual hates the Drek, and, you know, it's about his arc.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah,
Well, you know, yeah, no, you know what? You're right. Davidge had much more of an arc than Jerry.
Yeah.
Was Davidge too much? Was he over the top?
How do you mean over the
Just like I wrote this note to myself when I was watching it. I was like, in the beginning of the movie, he strikes me as like America, you know, that kind of character where he's very, you know, gee whiz, grew up on the farm, apple pie, and you dirty frog faced bastard. And,
he buys into the war he's in, doesn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, but it just seems a little much.
More than that. Yeah, right.
It seemed kind of exaggerated, or more than it needed to be. And then later on, you had these scenes with him just interacting with Jerry. And to Quaid's credit as an actor, you can see that there's an emotional core there that's a lot softer than his character is portraying through this whole thing. And I just think, maybe tone that down. It almost seemed to me like at the start, Jerry was too virtuous.
Yeah.
And Quaid was too contemptible. And I maybe they could have been a little more nuanced.
Maybe they should have learned from each other rather than... It was mostly Davidge doing the learning, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I thought most of it was heavy.
The only moment of growth that Jerry really had was when he agreed that Mickey Mouse probably wasn't an asshole.
I'm sorry I called Mickey Mouse an asshole. Yeah. He only admitted to that after, you know, Dennis Quaid said, I'm sorry I called your god an asshole.
No, actually, no, that's reversed.
No? That's reversed? Jerry did it first?
It was, yeah. Quaid,
okay.
Davidge was asking him to teach him how to read the little book thing that he had.
Yeah.
And that was when Jerry gets very incensed and says, "You said this thing about my," and I think it was kind of like his species version of Buddha. It was like this philosopher prophet that they followed, and he tells David, you said you insulted I can't remember his name, and then he said, well, yeah, but you made fun of Mickey Mouse. And immediately Jerry goes, "That was wrong. I shouldn't have done that." It's like,
you're right.
He's always the most mature person in the scene in any. And you know, there were parts where they were both kind of letting emotions and tensions get the best of them. But
yeah.
it always seemed like Jerry was coming out a little on top. Which
yeah,
I think it's okay. I think that juxtaposes nicely with his appearance. It's quite monstrous.
That's racist. You can't say that. We're monstrous to them.
Well, no, but can we talk about that for a minute? The makeup.
Yes.
One, I guess the makeup that they had on the first draft when they had the original director
was worse.
Was bad.
Yeah.
Now the final version that we got, I don't know how you felt about it, but I quite like it. I thought it looked very nice.
I didn't think it was too bad apart from around the mouth. I think it's one of those things for me that I don't know. I think that it's sort of like a totem of the genre, isn't it? To sort of have him look like that. And it's not like it was unconvincing. I just thought it wasn't super necessary because there was no time I could, there's no time I was going to forget I'm watching someone wearing a mask. I didn't think it was badly done necessarily. I just thought it was sort of unnecessary. I don't know, maybe it wasn't unnecessary. Maybe you couldn't have just had him as a human, but I don't know. I mean, it's a bit like in the Last Starfighter when we were talking about the CGI. I don't necessarily think the CGI was great, but it wasn't a problem for me. I really liked his performance, the actor's performance. Was it Louis Gossett Jr.?
Yeah, Louis Gossett Jr.
Yeah,
he's the best thing about the movie.
He's sort of cat-like and stuff, but I think that all throughout the problem for me with all of that was I like the ideas and I like the sentiment, and I like that it exists. I like that there was both the bravery and naivety to make this, but I thought it was all heavy-handed, and he was like a cat at times, and doing all these things, and it was great. But the director needed to come in and say, "That's too much," or the editor needed to come in and say, that minute where Jerry's talking and we can't understand him.
Mickey Mouse is this great Ekman teacher.
You need to do something about that, and I don't know what happened.
I don't know. I mean, in my case, I really, I quite liked the makeup and prosthetics that they had. I think it holds up. You said you weren't really impressed with the mouth.
Well, I don't know. I mean, like I say, I have mixed feelings about the makeup. Really, I don't. I mean, the mouth. I think when you have a monster. That's the giveaway, and it wasn't the worst I've ever seen or anything, but his teeth were good, but his lips, you always sort of reminded me, oh, that's a person.
Well, yeah, but I think you may disagree, but what I liked about that makeup design was he maintained his ability to emote through it.
Yeah,
very very effectively,
and the eyes were really good.
Yeah, there was never any point, just looking at his expressions,
where you weren't sure,
where you were confused about what was going on. There were moments where you were, or at least where I was confused about what was happening in his mind. But I think that's down to his performance and the fact that he was trying to convey alien. There's scenes where he Davidge is reacting to him in some way, and Davidge is very wild and animated, and you just see Jerry looking at him with this blank expression, kind of his mouth open, and because there's the eyes are so glassy, and he's so still, he could go anyway. Or anywhere, right? He could start laughing. He could become incredibly offended, and there's this beat where you don't quite know how he's going to respond to Davidge until he does.
Yeah,
and it makes him feel very culturally distinct.
Yeah,
compared to that, what a shame that we lose Louis Gossett halfway through the goddamn film.
Yeah, I agree.
It's like every time I watch this movie and I get to the point where he dies, I get bummed out all over again because I remember, oh yeah, I don't get to have him for the rest of this movie, and that's such a shame.
Yeah, I agree with what you were saying about I suppose it's sort of like a cultural identity or something. The way, it's not just the makeup, it's the way all the people playing Drac use their eyes. Even the kid sort of has the same thing, the same look, and that's really good. And there's a bit in this movie where they're trying to make a shelter out of meteor-proof turtle shells, whatever. And
yes,
and Dennis Quaid makes it, and Jerry's watching him. It's really early on, and he says no. He's just learning English, and he says no solid.
Shit.
Shit. What do you mean, shit?
No solid.
And then it collapses, and he bursts out laughing. And the look between them is so good and so relatable. And I thought when I was watching it again, like, oh, this is where it's going to turn and get good. And it definitely got better, but it just never really had that again. It should have been about their relationship, and it was just rushed.
Well, yeah, all the parts between them when they're alone on that planet, they were uneven at times, but that development of their relationship is really, it's you know what it is. In my estimation, it's like if you ever watched Full Metal Jacket. Mm-hmm. You have to have seen that, right?
Yeah.
So if you have friends that were in the United States Marine, they watch that movie over and over again, but they stop halfway through.
Which half do they watch?
They only watch the first half when everybody's in boot camp, because that's the thing that they relate. It's like two movies. It's the boot camp section, and then it's in Vietnam, where everything becomes very artistic, and we start exploring some different ideas, and it's kind of like this for me. If I watch this movie,
yeah, right.
If it's the part that I like, where it's the two of them that are kind of together, I'll sit down and watch again. I'll enjoy that. But then if I show up and it's like the kid and he's playing football with him, it's okay.
And just as an aside, how awful was Davidge at explaining the rules of football? Like, there you go, that's the football. So this is my end, and you've got to run past me. Like, what? Explain it's a team game, maybe.
Well, I mean, he was explaining it to a little guy.
But
I'm, if I'm teaching, I don't know how old the child was supposed to have been at that.
He looked like he was about 10 or 8 or.
Really?
Well,
I thought he was a little younger. He seemed
okay.
Cognitively, at least, he seemed a lot younger than that age. He almost seemed like a 4-year-old.
I wasn't sure, because I wasn't sure if that was just the way it was written, because you had the whole incident where the kid Zamis, is it Zamis?
Yeah.
Where Zamis suddenly realizes he can ask Davidge questions, so asks all the important questions all in the same shot.
Right now.
Like, why don't I have human hands?
Yeah.
Why am I not a human? And
that was the point where the editor hit the fast forward button, was right after Davidge figures out how to feed the little baby alien, and then right after that it's hurry up. We only have about 40 minutes left to finish this story.
And you never wanted to build a porch in all those years. You never wanted to improve your turtle shell hut.
Well, they were only to have been on that planet for 3 years.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
yeah, that's right. Yeah, that is right. You're right.
I think the implication was that the Drac biology,
grow quickly.
They age much faster than humans. So
right.
Within a few months, I guess he was up to that size.
That seems unnecessary, really, but okay.
Well, I think they needed the child to age enough so that he could say, "How come my hands look funny?"
No, I know, but normally you'd have said, "Well, he's stuck there for 10 years," rather than, "Oh, magic." I mean, was Jerry like 15 years old then, or something?
You're right. That's an unnecessary constraint that they didn't need to put on themselves, did they? They could have said he was there as long as they needed to.
As they needed to. I mean, you're right. I do remember them saying 3 years, but I got the impression, I guess, that they were there for much longer.
It feels like that.
It feels
definitely.
like that, yeah.
I mean, for me, memorizing that song about Jerry's lineage would have taken at least 6 months on its own.
I'd have just told him, "Oh yeah, I'll do it."
Getting all that saliva gurgling correct and.
Son extraño kus pachica.
I'm sure there was a quiz at some point. Well, that's the other.
Who was
thing,
my
right?
160th great grandma?
Shit.
Yeah.
Sing it out of order now, so I know you've really got it. That was quick too, though, because the minute Jerry decides to teach him his lineage, that's when he's in trouble already, medically, I guess, physically. Like he's going into labor. You can see that he's got abdominal pain, and he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna teach you this thing." Then he says how long it is, and like the first thing I thought was, shouldn't you have started earlier?
Oh, write it down.
yeah, maybe the minute you knew you were space knocked up, you should have like, okay, I need to start making plans. I don't have. There's not a Kaiser Permanente down the street, so there's a chance this pregnancy is gonna go wrong. I should probably allow for that, right? Yeah, no. I feel something is wrong on the day of delivery. You need to start memorizing this shit right now. And then,
Yeah.
Davidge glosses over it in narration. So he taught it to me, and I learned it.
Jerry went on, singing its lineage back to the founding of its home planet 170 generations ago. To keep Jerry happy as the winter raged on, I too learned to sing the Jariba line.
And then this happened.
I don't know. There were all these little aspects, and there could have been so much more. And
It almost feels like they should have just thought about it a little longer.
You really wonder, don't you? Like, where exactly did this fall down? What, was it a case of they just shot too early and they should have fleshed it out more, or what? But
well, I do want to make it clear though that I don't think a lot of this movie falls down.
Okay.
The beginning is extraneous and doesn't need to be there. The subplot with the miners is bizarre, and outside of the anecdote that I related, where there was just some guy somewhere. I'm confused by the word mine.
That is what happened. I'm sure
put
it
miners
is.
in the movie. But outside of that, like, you don't really know why that's there. But there's this whole chunk of the movie, this first half, between the characters, that it's uneven at points, but I don't think it falls down at all. I think it works very well. And it's just it kind of works despite of all the other things that are going on.
Yeah, I think I would agree. I would certainly call it uneven, and yeah, I'd say it works. And yeah, like you said, that's the bit I'm interested in as well. And as a whole, it's a shame, really, because that's why it's one of those movies that is interesting. But I didn't really enjoy watching it. I enjoyed that bit of it, but after that, it actually became quite sort of. I became quite disengaged, really.
It's a little tedious.
At the end, it seems a little tedious.
Once Jerry passes away, it becomes tedious for me.
Yeah. Jerry was the tits. I wanted more of him.
Yeah, God. Yeah, I cannot say enough about Louis Gossett Jr.'s performance in that movie. He is Dennis Quaid is very well. He does a great job. Given some of the material they gave him to work with. I mean, he does an outstanding job of conveying emotion subtly. In a lot of scenes where he's just required to be silent and observe Jerry, and then react in some way, and you could really feel that character was opening up. He was growing, and that was very good to watch. But then there's points where the tone is just a little. It's not quite right. And I think it's frustrating for me because this movie or the material and the themes that it explores, this is when you get sci-fi at its best.
Yeah, it's what sci-fi should be about, really.
Oh, God, yeah. But then, the first creature, or the first exposure you get to the creatures that are native to the planet, you've got the space turtle and the sand lizard dragon.
The space turtle, which looks like a Death Star robot, just to bring Star Wars into there. You can see that the thing is on wheels, right?
Oh yeah, I love the little fluttering alveoli or whatever that it had on the side. Is that how it propels itself, or is that just to be cute?
I have no idea. Maybe that's how it was feeling stuff. Feelers, I thought they were, but
the pit lizard, which I'll just say this right, used to scare the holy hell out of me.
Another good idea.
That thing that just comes out of the sand and starts probing around for you. That, like the first time I saw it, I was horrified by that. And the fact that just when it grabs you, it hurts. Right? It was doing something. Like it grabbed Davidge's leg and all of a sudden like the skin is shredding and there's blood everywhere. So whatever the fuck that thing it was toothed at least. And that taps into every fear that any little kid has of letting their foot dangle off the side of the bed while they're sleeping at night. Something's going to reach out and get you.
Getting into the sandpit.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And, but they introduce it to you as the audience, like right when they crash on the planet.
Yes.
Just, you know, there's things there that we need to be worried about. And, you know, the little space turtle falls into the pit. The thing sucks it down. And then not 2 seconds after it's been pulled into the sand, the shell gets spat out and there's a burp. And
yeah, tonal issues.
Is that supposed to be scary, or am I supposed to be laughing now? It was like the Sarlacc pit in Return of the Jedi, where you know there's people falling down the pit.
That used to terrify me. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, don't make the scary stuff burp. That's that makes it not scary.
Yeah.
And then I kind of felt like I never needed to see what that tongue was attached to when that came out of the sand. It was okay.
I agree. I think that's sort of a good indicator of maybe a lack of coherence and intention, because I thought that when the thing, there's a moment where Davidge falls down the pit because he's an idiot. I mean, how would you not know that thing is there? It's right there. He falls down the pit, and the thing comes out, and it grabs around his leg, and he's calling for Jerry. Jerry comes along and essentially cuts this massive creature's tongue off. And there's a moment where the sand subside, and you see this thing's face. And if they'd have cut before you properly showed it, I think it would have been really effective in being terrifying. Oh, there's this huge thing down there. If you hadn't quite seen exactly what it was, but you'd seen it was massive. But then you do see it, and later on they bring it back, and it essentially comes up into their hut, and it's not a rubber glove, it's a huge, I mean, dare I say animatronic, but it's just sort of like lolloping about. You know, you can see there isn't really much more to it other than it's a piece of plastic that we've got. And it's just like, am I meant to be scared by this? What?
It lacks a certain restraint.
Yeah, and I wonder, you know, what. Obviously, this film lost a lot of money, and obviously, it bombed. And I was sort of thinking earlier, imagine being the guy in 20th Century Fox who gets this thrown across his desk, and someone says, "Market that." How would you market this? Because what? And I wonder if, you know, those bits with the Sarlacc, well, not with the Sarlacc, with the monster, I wonder if those were there so they could say it was an adventure or something. I mean, okay, this is a sci-fi film, but is it an adventure sci-fi film? It's almost like as much a romance film as it is an adventure film. Is it, you know, what is it?
You know, I there's a line there that you can walk. Because I think it's important that the planet is trying to kill them.
Yeah.
You know? That was another note I wrote somewhere, is that they apparently landed on the planet Australia because everything about it starts trying to kill them the minute they show up there. But it, like they needed that. They needed the setting to be an antagonist so that they could kind of rally against it together.
Yeah.
But
and have an antagonist.
But then at the same time, it was like those scenes where they were, I don't even really know how to explain it. It's when they're on the soundstage. You can tell very easily when they're on a soundstage versus when they're in a volcano field. Yeah. And now it feels like they're in the fire swamp in The Princess Bride.
In The Princess Bride, yes.
It felt like that, right? It's okay, so we...
Steve said that, yeah.
Oh, did he really?
He said it's The Princess Bride, and then that got into a minute of, "That shit, Steve." It was, "How dare you?" And yeah, it was handbags at dawn.
Handbags.
Yes. That's
Yeah,
right.
but it was kind of like that. It was like they had like the three threats that they had to worry about. Just like, you know, we've got the sand pits, we have the fire whatevers, and then we have the New York rats, the subway rats. That we have to worry about.
Yeah,
And
right.
In this, there was the sand lizard, there were the meteor showers, and
The miners,
yeah,
slaving miners.
yeah, oh yeah, the those guys.
Those guys at the end. The mine bit of Enemy Mine.
Those guys that were important for precisely 5 minutes of the entire film's running time.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the whole thing really. You know, you've got these really sort of quite sophisticated and certainly, you know, full of intention shots of Dennis Quaid as he realizes things and looks sad,
Yeah.
and the camera moves in carefully, and they're really quite well done. And you know, if you just showed someone that, they'd probably think, well, that seems like it's from a very serious movie, or a movie that's taking itself seriously.
Yeah.
You know, and that certainly isn't how I would describe this. At times it feels like it's trying to be art. At times it feels like it's not trying to be anything.
Yeah, that's well. Okay, so I don't know if it's that it's not trying to not trying to be anything, or if it's trying to be something popular.
So this is a movie that you'll like to watch. Yeah.
Yeah. You know what do you think it's more of? Do you think there's more? Do you think there's more art involved in the story, or do you think it's a little bit more clunky and they have like these brief flashes of something that's really special?
I mean, I don't know about really special, but I think that apparently Wolfgang Peterson said he's not into sci-fi and he's not into Star Wars sci-fi, I think he said, or Star Wars type of sci-fi, and he was, you know, he read the script and he was impressed, and yeah, I imagine the script, and from him reading the script, his early intentions at least were, you know, this is a film about race, and this is a film about how we aren't different, and you know, that's okay. That's a message I can get behind and believe in. Possibly, he thought, and then along the way, he had to make it, and I don't know. You know, I think the mistake is making that sort of film for $40 million. You know, and trying to make it look like Star Wars. You know, do something completely different. And I guess what I'm saying is if he'd have gone really out for it and made it this beautiful art film, that probably wouldn't be any less accessible than what this is.
Well, I think if it had been
Maybe not art film, but you know what I mean.
No, I get what you're saying. Something with a lot more merit than what it ends up with being hacked together the way it is.
Yeah,
but I think if it had gone in that direction, I don't think that 1985 was the right time to do it. I think it would have done even worse.
Yeah,
than it had to begin with.
I agree, and I don't think it would have worked
maybe,
either.
I wonder if maybe that was it. Maybe they thought they had to trick the audience into the material by disguising it or dressing it up.
Yeah, I think you might be right.
Well, I mean, there are parts of it that feel very adventure filmy, just as you say, and then they're really trying to explore these lofty ideas. And some shots in the movie are just gorgeous. Cinematographer nails it. They're sitting on this like a cliff or an outcrop of rock together, and it's a very emotional scene for Davidge. You know, you can see him tearing up, and it is you know, Jerry is praying to his, you know, he's singing whatever. It's very spiritual. Spirituality, you know, and regardless of how you feel about the material itself or how well it's been presented to you, that scene itself is a thing of beauty. It's really well done.
Yeah, I agree.
And then you have a sand lizard that burps.
But not only that, I also thought the cinematography was pretty good, and then I really did not like the music. I thought that it came across as if it had been done quickly.
There were a couple of films that it remind. Well, I mean, I guess it's no coincidence at all that the director had worked on the Neverending Story. Portions of the score sound very much like the sweeping orchestra of Neverending Story. Also, I thought there were portions of it that reminded me of a lot of the heroic theme of Willow. If you remember how that goes at all, I'm
No, I don't. But
yeah, well, if you looked it up and played it, I think you'd find some similarity there. It's
okay.
You know, the heroic, you know, resounding horns and you know the big orchestra pieces.
I felt that the music could have, or sound design or something could have really helped, and you know the look of their camp was, you know, it was like being on the it was like being on the side of a mountain, you know, it was, or the side of a volcano. It was bleak and sort of almost like ash-like all the time. It felt like it was a rough place to have to be. But then you had all this sort of jaunty music, and I felt like it could have been a bit darker and more brooding. You know, and I'm not saying it had to be slow necessarily, but I never got a sense of threat from it, or really it was just sort of playful.
Yeah, I remember when I was young feeling very threatened by the scenery.
Yeah.
Because, you know, just for, as you say, it's a very bleak setting. And one of the things that I thought was just, how the hell are they getting food? It doesn't look like there's a damn thing in this environment that you can put in your mouth.
Yeah, the water does not look good, does it?
Oh, yeah. There's, like, right in the beginning when he's trying to attack Jerry, like, he's by his crashed ship.
You mean when he's got the gun and he spends like half an hour aiming it, like Reducto?
That little Men in Black noisy cricket.
Yeah.
That he's trying to aim down there. And then it starts raining. And, you know, he immediately forgets that his enemy's down there, and he throws his head back and starts trying to drink the rain. And all I thought was, well, I hope that's not going to kill you.
I hope that's water, yeah.
Like, what is that liquid? You're on an alien planet. Okay, just drink it. It's fine. It's totally safe.
It's totally
fine. Is the same guy, though, who picked up a space turtle shell and said, "This is meteor proof."
And it was.
And I know it is. I don't know if it was. I never saw a meteor bounce off those things.
You want to say, listen, guys, I'm not an engineer, but if a tree can destroy your meteor-proof shelter, then a meteor can.
Well, that's kind of what it was like. Even if that thing is meteor-proof, which, come on, but even if it is, it's put together in this really haphazard dome, and I mean, if the structure falls on you, it doesn't matter how meteor-proof those shells are.
Yeah.
You're going to be pancakes. But I loved how he jumped to that conclusion. Like, he picked up the shell, looks at it, and he says, the pit lizard couldn't eat this. That it's tough, therefore it's meteor-proof. And then he beats it on his head, and the thing flexes in his hands. If that's happening, it's not able to absorb the joules of energy that are imparted in a goddamn meteorite that is falling to a planet. Those things are doing like 20,000 miles an hour, buddy.
Yeah. Yes. Exactly. And yeah, I mean,
those sorts of scientific verity.
Those sorts of things, sort of, I guess they don't really matter. They're nitpicks. But on the other hand,
it's definitely a nitpick.
No, it is. But you think I guess the director would want to be sort of fairly accurate. I mean, you wouldn't just make a dome of them. You do a lean-to, wouldn't you? So you had less to use, and you find a cave, you found an outcrop. I don't know.
I wanted to know how long he was scavenging for those shells, because there was a lot of them. It's like
these things were like the equivalent of buffalo, and he was just slaughtering them.
Well, you saw him shoot one with an arrow, okay?
Yeah.
And I think, he had a quiver on his back, and there were maybe 15 arrows in that. He tried to kill one of them, and he screwed that up fantastically when he fell into the pit. So that even that didn't go well. And I think the only way I can explain that he was able to scrounge together any was the fact that you would find those things as leavings around the pit.
Right.
Which I would have hoped he'd notice at some point and maybe, put a caution tape around these areas so that you don't go near it. No, they just die. But how many pits did he
I know, right?
How many pits did he have to scout before he got enough shells to make a goddamn igloo?
I know. And what happened to Jerry's crashed ship?
Yeah, the...
Because I would have thought that would be more meteor-proof than...
Well, it seemed like they had a scene where he scavenged parts from it. But it was only enough to fit in a sack.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have used its hull or something, turned it upside down and...
Yeah, take some plates off of that.
Yeah, or something, yeah. I don't know.
Well, I mean, yeah, I think a lot of that is nitpicky.
Yeah, it is. Definitely it is.
I was having fun doing that anyway, though. Whenever we get together to talk about this stuff, like I'll sit down with a notebook and I'll start just writing things that I notice as it comes to mind. I liked at one point that there's a reference to a Greyhound bus.
Yes.
And I thought, well, this is supposed to be 2095. We still have Greyhound buses? That's great. I didn't, we've got interstellar space travel, but we still get across the terrain on a bus. Interesting. That's
Maybe
good.
he meant like a maglev bus.
Sure.
Laser bus.
There's a point where he's singing a CCR song to himself. Creedence Clearwater Revival, because this is 2095, but it's Dennis Quaid who probably grew up in the 60s, so he knows that music. But
yeah, they should have had a whole bit where Jerry says, "Could you tell me a hymn?" And he starts off going, "Straight out of Compton."
Yeah, well, I think that's a problem you run into, and you see it a lot in Star Trek too. It's like they're trying to show the culture of the character, but if you try to make up a piece of culture from the future and then put it into the film or the TV show or whatever, it stands out like a sore thumb, and it screws with people's immersion.
You mean what? If you try and make one up and it? What do you
like
mean?
if somebody had tried to write a future song.
Yes,
for
I see what you're saying.
Because why would he sing a CCR song? That doesn't make any sense. That's that's over 100 years ago now. I'm not running around singing music from that era today. I'm singing stuff that I know now, or things that I enjoyed, when I was, a couple of years ago, a little younger. But you can't, you need to meet the audience halfway. We're going to construct a whole song that we think people would be singing in the future, because then there's no context. Nobody gets it.
Yes, I see what you're saying. Or maybe he could have done something really old. Something that would be old even for us, He starts singing Al Jolson or something.
Maybe they were all just like a group of space hipsters. They were... Well, I liked this stuff before you were born.
Jerry starts telling him all about vinyl.
That's what they needed. That's it. When the scene where they're at each other's throats because of the meteor showers happening, they needed to be arguing over vinyl versus CDs, vinyl versus digital. That's what the
vinyl versus
They sound better. Mickey Mouse is full of shit.
I like their relationship, and I was convinced, and there should have been more moments like that.
Yeah. They should have filled the whole movie with those two.
With those two moments.
That's what it should have been.
Even when Jerry was hormonal and had one of his monologues or soliloquies, and I couldn't really understand what he was saying, I liked them. I liked them way more than the minor bit. So
the cartoonishly evil miners.
The cartoonishly evil miners. I mean, honestly, with that ending, I'm surprised that it didn't have Jerry not die, and then the kid gets taken away, and the end is just them tango and cashing the miners. I mean, that would have actually just been as satisfying, I suppose.
There's a whole scene where they're going from compartment to compartment, murdering them all. Jerry has a line where he says he's getting too old for this shit.
Yeah, Joe Pesci has an entire subplot as he's their bagman. He waits and gets into mischief they never know about.
It turns into a space buddy cop movie.
I mean, it was in a way a buddy cop well, not a buddy cop movie, but a buddy movie.
Well, yeah, of course.
And it's very rare that in a buddy movie, one of the buddies dies halfway through.
I think on one hand, I just wish they hadn't have done it, but on the other, it's kind of ballsy.
I'm glad they did it. No, I'm glad this film exists, and even though, I don't think it works. It is ballsy.
No,
but is it ballsy, or is it just like, well, we've started with all this money, and now it looks like this, and what?
I think it's definitely both.
Yes,
because one of the things they said was they started doing the movie, and I think the reason they embarked on it was because again, the Star Wars effect. Star Wars was very popular. This was 1985, and people were hot for more stuff like that. So it's like, let's get more of this. And the final budget, I think, was $40 million. It wasn't supposed to be that. It was supposed to be a lot less than that. Halfway through the first draft, they decided this is no good. It's not working. We need to start over. And at that point, they had to figure out, are we going to complete it or not? Are we just going to mothball it? But apparently, Dennis Quaid and Louis Gossett Jr. had, I don't know if it's pay or play contract or pay to play contract. I forget what they're called. But apparently the contract states they get paid no matter whether the movie's made or not.
Yeah.
So I think I think the decision was a purely financial one. And they decided, get the movie filmed. Maybe there's a chance we recoup our costs.
Yeah.
Maybe.
No, I think that's right. I mean, yeah, I always think when you look at these things, it tells you that in Hollywood there is quite a fair degree of risk taking, which is good.
Yeah.
Because, and it's nothing really to do with we want to make art that isn't profitable. It's, well, you never know. I don't think people would have during the edit. Certainly, earlier than that, I don't think anyone thought, Star Wars is going to be massive. And I think there's a lot of films like that where they think it's not going to be massive, but you never know, we might be wrong, and it might be massive. And there's a lot of wishful thinking as well that goes along with that.
Well, I think that Star Wars kind of started that...
Oh, they've started talking about Star Wars.
Well, yeah. But no, I mean, it was kind of that where the first movie. I don't think anybody thought it was going to really get big or go anywhere. I don't think a lot of people got it. I don't know that 20th Century Fox really understood.
Yeah.
What it was trying to be or what it was going to be. And what's fun for me about that is that you have that where by the time it got to the second movie, they realized, okay, it's not a fluke. There's something happening. And then you get to the prequels and then everything that happens after. And the wisdom says you cannot lose with a Star Wars movie. And
here we are.
Well, on one hand, that's true because they made a ton of money. They all made profit except for Solo.
Except for Solo.
Solo bombed. But they all made a profit. But I mean, they're not held in the same regard that the originals were.
No, they're not. No, they're not. Yeah.
Stretch of the imagination.
And
I think I kind of think that they were embarking on this movie with the hope that maybe we can make another thing that picks up like Star Wars. But if they had wanted it to be that, they kind of forgot to flesh their world out.
And to leave it open for a sequel, I didn't feel like they did that very well, if that's what their intention was.
Now, by the time you get to the end, you're just feeling as though everybody's cut their losses. They're just trying to escape. David's is trying to escape. He's going to punt the kid off on this planet and, adios.
I mean, where would you go? You got rid of Jerry, so...
I wouldn't go anywhere.
I wouldn't go anywhere. No.
There's nowhere to go. Anything that wasn't Davidge and Jerry is uninteresting. The human spaceships are uninteresting. The reasons, the more you know about the reasons these two races are fighting, the less you understand why they're fighting, because it's like, you shouldn't be doing this. It doesn't make a lot of sense. It's one of those stories where the less you know about the surrounding world, the better off you're going to be to explore the idea. And I think it is. It's just a very simple idea. You need one film to tell it, and not, please don't try to cram 3 films into a single film. Just do the one, and that's it. Do it. Be done with it. And
Have you ever seen Hell on the Pacific?
No, I have not.
It's a film from 1960 something. I'll just look it up now. It stars Lee Marvin and someone else. Hell in the Pacific, is it called? Let me look. It's a film by John Borman.
That Hell in the Pacific.
Yeah, starring
shit,
Lee Marvin and Toshiro Mifune. And essentially it's about two men who are trapped on an island, an American and Japanese, during the war. And the whole film is about them trying to kill each other.
Okay, so is it the same film? Just one's in
It's
space?
it's not the same film at all, because they never make friends.
Oh. Interesting, okay.
Yeah, as I remember it. Again, that's a film I probably haven't seen in 15 years, but... going back to Enemy Mine, I thought about that film and I thought, I wonder if it's going to have elements of that in it. I couldn't remember whether... I knew there was a bit of conflict between Davidge and Jerry, but I didn't know how long that went on. And I think you could have easily made a film where it goes from they crash, they fight, they come together... Jerry has a baby, if that has to be in it. But essentially, they should have had an arc together where they sort of get over their hate. And the whole film could have been that.
Absolutely.
And it could have been, it didn't have to cost $40 million to do that. Even with doing it again. I don't know.
I feel like we were robbed of a scene where Davidge comes home to the hut and shouts out, "Honey, I'm home." And you have Jerry with an apron on, cooking over a stove.
I mean, there were bits like
little
that.
Baby Zammy's like yanking at his hem, and Jerry tells Davidge, "You take him now. I've had enough."
You promised at 8 p.m. Yeah. No, I mean, when Jerry got pregnant, he became very hormonal, exceptionally hormonal, and it was a bit like that.
I wonder if it's down to actor choices too, because he was very lizard-like or animalistic at the start of the movie when he was supposed to be the bad guy, and then as he progresses towards childbirth, he takes on many more feminine aspects.
Poson dedu, Jerry.
Au.
Zombies.
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 Yeah.
Which I having Gossett Jr. do that, who most of the movies I've seen him in, he kind of plays your classic hard man.
Yeah.
And seeing him take on that degree of softness in a role, really impressive.
Yeah, I agree.
I kind of wonder too if the makeup helped him do that. Like he felt very much like he was not himself, and he was really able to explore that, because he kicks ass in every scene that he's in. I loved it when Davidge was starting to learn his language, and then they had whole scenes where Davidge was speaking to him in the Drac language, and Jerry was speaking English back to him. So you were only getting half of the conversation, but you still knew what they were saying.
Koda my soka, Zamis.
Soon.
And it was reversed the these two sharing these two languages, and there was like these moments in the movie where it's like, God, that's really smart. That's really cool the way they did that. I'm almost surprised they thought to do that.
Yeah, I agree, and that's why I think it was a problem with direction, because there were bits where Jerry is heavily pregnant and sort of, I mean, he's very good. The acting is very good. Both of them are good, but he's sort of acting like a pregnant mom in a sitcom. It lends itself to comedy. There's nothing wrong with that, but then do it. And it never really felt like it was doing anything. It was like, well, now there's a bit of comedy and now there's a bit of action, but neither of which are satisfying. And it could have been funny at times. It could have been heartfelt at times and distressing. It was those things, but just not enough, and in too tight a space.
We hit a point where Davitt and Jerry are essentially just friends, and it was like after that happened, the movie just started doing things to them because we needed some things to happen and create a little excitement or a little drama. I think that the portion of the film where they were antagonistic towards each other and began to work together was rushed. That was too fast. That should have been spread out, and it should have been more gradual. Because it's like they're very quickly friends, and then once you hit that point, there's nothing for them to fight over anymore. And then when they do fight, it's like, whoa, where is this coming from? There's the whole meteor shower, and they're at each other's throats. Right before that scene, that's where they're on the cliff together, and Jerry is singing to Shit Spa or whatever they call him, and Shit Spa. I just remembered what they call it. His name is Shit Spa, but they're
his Lord Shit Spa.
Yeah, and Davitt is sitting there, and he's got he's misty-eyed listening to this creature commune spiritually.
But what you have not yet learned is the way we Drex express the truth. The words of Shisma must be sung.
We were here 1,000 years before you! Well, in case you haven't heard it, Dragface, we legally annexed the star system. Invaded the star system. Bullshit! You're the invaders! No, we are explorers. We are founders of worlds! What do you think we are, Dragface? Homebodies? Huh? We settle twice as many worlds as you! Exactly. You spread like a disease. So what the hell are you gonna do about it, huh?
And right after that, man, a few meteorites happen, and they're at each other's throat. And then immediately after that, once the meteor shower is over, you've got Davitt telling him, "I think we got to get out of here, man. We're going crazy." And I just remember thinking, when were you going crazy? You guys were dominating the landscape right up until that point, and then you just had a fit.
Yeah, and it's an argument.
The build?
Yeah, the argument that they have is about, I suppose essentially whose empire is more evil or less worthy. It's an argument they should have had very early on.
Yeah, they went back to an old argument that they'd already settled it. They'd already figured out by that point, the reasons we're fighting are kind of fucked up, and
Yeah.
and we've grown beyond that now. Except now we're gonna have that fight.
Now we're going to have that. I mean, I thought it would have been, because it sort of played it off, with the whole we're going crazy Jerry line. It sort of played it off like it was funny. So they should have had a fight about, this is because you didn't do the washing up. I always do the washing up. You say you're going to do it, you never do it. When you do it, you don't do it properly. It should have been like a domestic argument, like between a man and wife.
Yeah.
Then it would have been funny, and then it would have been something.
It almost felt as though the people making the movie said, we need to have them fight about something right here.
Well, I wonder if it was taken from somewhere else, though.
Oh, I don't know, but like they said, we need to have them fight right here. And then whoever was working on the script with them said, okay, what are they fighting about? And then they look at all the material that's supposed to come before that, and they realize, oh shit, we have
no conflict.
We haven't shown them really exploring anything outside of just, we're getting data dumps from Jerry about what is his culture like, and we have a few scenes where they're kind of working together and stuff, but we don't really get them working on things. We don't see them solving problems together. Mm-hmm. You've got Jerry, who's he's just kind of there to be the spiritual master. And then you have Davidge, who's he's trying to build shelters. He's trying to figure out that if they had problems that they'd struggled with together that we saw, they could have referred to that and had them fight over that. But because that was absent, it was like, well, what do they have to fight about? What are they at odds over? Well, they colonize planets and they fight over territory.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, and it would have been so easy. They could have had a fight about making the shelter. Like, don't do it like this. You humans don't know anything about engineering, about architecture.
Yeah.
I'll show you this, and then they have to come together to actually make it work.
That would have, they could have leveraged that to show the thought process of the two different characters, right? Like you might have had Davidge, who's I'm going to use the impenetrable space turtle shells. Mm-hmm. And make an igloo out in the middle of everything, and that's going to protect me from the meteorites. And then you could have, Jerry's. There's a cave right up there. That's really safe. Yes. And it looks as though meteorites have not fallen inside of the cave. We should probably stay there.
Yes.
And then, Davidge, caves are where wildlife lives. We got a lot of bears on the planet. So they could have had like this long drawn out argument over why each approach is the correct one to take. And that that could have been like meat that we had to chew on throughout the film, and it's so weird. It feels in every scene as though these characters have this amazing history together, but I don't know what any of that is.
Yeah,
I have no idea what that history is at any point.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. In many ways, it's so disappointing because of that. because but that's a good thing in a way. I mean, I wouldn't have called The Last Starfighter disappointing because I don't. No, I'm not trying to have a go. It's just, it's just like with that, there were no bits I thought, ooh, that's a really good idea. But you didn't do it very well. Whereas with this, they almost did some things well, but I mean, maybe they did do some things well, but certainly not all of it. So as a product, it does not work.
I got storytelling boo balls.
Sorry, go on.
Yeah, well, no, I see you almost feel like.
Yeah, I got
here. Oh.
Yeah, it is like that. There are really good ideas there, and it's the sort of film that someone could remake, and they could make it brilliant, but that's not what remakes are.
God, but wouldn't that be great though?
Yeah, it would be great.
I mean, I think we often say how tired we are of remakes, except for when they really work, and they're really good. And I think there's room for them. There's certain movies where it's like you can see that it was like there was a kernel of something great there, and they kind of fumbled the execution. And let's try again. let's give it another shot and see if we can. We'll take a thoughtful screenwriter person.
Mm-hmm.
We'll take a gifted director, not a J.J. Abrams, and we'll kind of turn them loose. It's like what they're doing with Dune right now.
Dune.
I'm watching, not in detail. I'm not like drooling over every little piece of information that comes out of it. But the book series Dune, I loved. And I've always thought, like, man, that is something that you could turn into like this sweeping, almost like a Game of Thrones.
Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah, that makes sense.
Well, you need room to tell that story.
You do need room, yeah, and Is that what they're doing? They're making a TV show?
No, I think they're making a film. It's going to be
making a
feature
film. Okay.
I
bet you it bombs. I'm not saying it's going to be bad, but I bet you it bombs.
You think so?
Well, I hope not, because I would actually quite like to see that as well. I mean, I think some of the ideas in, I've not read the books, but I've seen the film from what is it, 1984, and
that one.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, and
that one is So that's a weird one because the production design in that movie is really cool, like really interesting.
Yes,
but the story itself is hardly Dune. The books, the two almost don't have anything to do with each other. They're so off.
Well, yeah. I mean, that sort of leads into what I'm saying and why I think, but I hope not, that a new Dune might not do well. Is I think Hollywood really has a problem doing sci-fi. In fact, actually, I'll go further than that. I think I think Hollywood has a problem doing anything that's nuanced. And to do sci-fi justice, you need to have nuance. And I think that executives see the success of stuff like Star Wars and Marvel, and they do not consider those things to be nuanced, even though they are, and the source material of the Marvel stuff certainly is. I think that they really struggle to right now make films that have more than just a sort of common denominator appeal. And even the ones that do have more than that, I think that is almost incidental.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily deliberate on the executive level. And you definitely need that in Dune. And I think that they're either going to put that in and it's not going to work, and because they can't have any sort of, they can't they can't leave directors alone. They're going to say, that doesn't make sense, let's put a voiceover in there, or fuck it up somewhere like that.
Yeah.
Or they're going to gut it before it's made and make it like, yeah, it's Dune, but it's, Dune for 8th graders. Sorry, is that a bit condescending? I'm not trying to condescend.
No, not at all. You're just making me sad because I'm realizing that you're correct, most likely.
I hope not, and there are exceptions.
I do too. I mean, every once in a while, big ass Hollywood puts out a film that I think does have subtlety and nuance.
Yeah, definitely they do, and you do get sort of indie Hollywood, which is still studio Hollywood, but
Sure.
You make a film for $5 million, it doesn't really make that much difference to them. Do your wacky film, what was it? What am I thinking of? Sorry, the film that's all about sort of pretentious philosophy. It's
Is that any of the Wachowski movies or?
No, hang on, let me think. It's it was on the tip of my tongue. I can't remember. But okay, well, let's say about Schmidt then. That is a thoughtful movie. Let's say, if you like it or not, it's thoughtful. That was a Hollywood movie. That was a big budget movie. But compared to really big movies, it wasn't super budgeted. And I think you're always going to get smaller movies or medium-sized movies that are intelligent and do have things to say. And my worry more is if Dune, I don't know anything about this project, but if it's like $100 million film, You know, the more money, you know, certain projects, the more money they get, the more I think, oh no.
The more it's going to be meddled with.
Meddled with and watered
the more people are
down
going to
and
be trying to micromanage it to success.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a very astute analysis.
There are obvious exceptions, stuff like Lord of the Rings. You know, Lord of the Rings, I'd say, was lucky enough to have been, the films were lucky enough to have been made by someone who really liked the source material.
Yeah, I think everybody involved had a big
Yeah.
affinity for the works going into it.
Yeah.
Sure is a shame about what happened after with The Hobbit, but, you know.
I agree, and yeah, it is a shame. And I think, you know, there's a great example of what we're talking about. Of, you know, The Hobbit. The Hobbit should have been one film. If it had been one film, it'd have been really enjoyable, I bet. But they divided it into three. Well, yeah.
I think it would have been a really enjoyable whatever it would have been if Guillermo del Toro had made it, like they had planned on.
Yeah,
think-
or if...
I
Yeah,
think
exactly.
Peter Jackson wanted to be tangentially involved with the
That's
movie,
right.
but he didn't have the interest or the stamina to get back in that chair for another trilogy.
No, and he, you know...
And then he kind of got sucked into it. And
Exactly.
I think that shows. I think the lack.
And
of
I don't
interest
blame
shows
him
in the
for
movies.
that.
No, I think I remember reading an article at one point when they were right in the middle of making those things, where they said we were originally going to have 2 movies, but then we figured out if we only put out 2 movies with the amount of money it's costing to make these, we're going to go bankrupt. We have to make it a trilogy, or we're going to go bankrupt. I mean, these are the decisions that are driving what the story is going to be.
Sort of like at that point, you know, you've got your business the wrong way round.
Oh yeah.
Well, that's another thing, isn't it?
Well, it's
You
almost
know?
like you're compelled to make the Hobbit films, right?
You're
Even if you don't
compelled-
want
yeah.
to, you're compelled to make them because I own this property now and I need to be making money on it somehow.
Yeah, and you know, for this to be successful, we have to make these films for $100 million. We can't possibly, you know, just put 15 million in or something.
Don't make it small because, well, we just had the Lord of the Rings. People are going to expect massive, sweeping CGI set piece battles, you know?
Right, exactly. and going back to Enemy Mine, maybe that's the problem here. You know, if they'd have made this for $4 million, let's say, and just let the director do what they wanted and given it time. You know, I mean, $40 million is, you know, what they say it cost with all the reshoots and with marketing. That's a lot of money. It was a lot of money. It was more money in the 80s. Even now.
in 85. 40, you know, isn't it funny now that $40 million sounds like chump change when you're making a movie? It does.
When
to
you're
me.
making a movie, it does, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I know you've created pieces for far less than that, but I mean,
I have
like,
made a movie for 30 grand.
You look at movies where it's like, well, the budget on this is $250 million, and at that point, it's like, what is money even anymore? I don't.
What is money even? Yeah.
I don't know what that means now.
Yeah.
Says we made it for $40 million. Well, like that's the bill for craft services on Endgame, isn't it? I mean, so.
Yeah, it is like that. I mean, you know, one of the reasons Marvel has done so well, I think, is because they haven't actually gone that far with it. Those movies are super expensive, but comparatively, they're fairly restrained. But with Enemy Mine, $40 million.
Wait. Explain to me how the Marvel movies are restrained. I'm picturing.
Well, what was
the final battle in Endgame?
Well, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about budget.
Okay. Were they really?
I mean, comparatively,
they sound like big numbers, but I mean, each one of those movies is raking in like $1 billion or $2 billion, isn't it?
I'm not sure. I'm just looking at Endgame. Okay, yeah, so I'm completely wrong. Yeah, Endgame, $356 million.
Right.
It cost. Okay. But I'm sure some of the Marvel movies haven't been quite as expensive.
Oh, well, yeah, I think like Ant-Man and films like that, I'm sure were a lot more restrained.
Well, anyway, I suppose what I'm getting to with Enemy Mine is, you know, this film, the important part is the relationship between the two characters. So what do you really need? You need a set, and you need yes, makeup and all of that, you need lighting and stuff, but you didn't really need special effects we didn't need the space battles.
Yeah.
You know,
You really get the sense that most of that money was just spent in them having do-overs. And
having
reshoots.
do-overs. You know, there's
Yeah.
the whole bit in the third act where you see very, very big sets where Davidge is walking through, you know, essentially a space station, dozens of extras. That was needless. You could have
Yeah.
made this film for a fraction of the price and just have it about two people. And it's not to say I'm against, you know, some of the special effects. I definitely liked the photography. I liked some of the special effects in this.
Yeah, I did too. There were certain things that I liked, and then there were certain things that they struck me as a little coarse, compared to what we had gotten used to seeing at that point. Like they had Industrial Light and Magic do all the ship shots,
Right.
all the space battles and everything, which is, as far as just, you know, cinematically, you know, the motion of the ships and how they were tracking after each other, that looks good. I think the design of the human ships is a little uninspired.
Mm-hmm.
It looked like a little desktop model on water skids.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then, but I liked the space station that they were living on. I thought that did a better job of giving a sense of the human technology than the ridiculous space suits that that they were in with the fishbowl helmets. Like that kind of reminds me of 2001. I feel insane mentioning that movie in the same space, but you know, like that scene. But then right before that, when you have the opening credits, you have just clearly hand painted planets in a spacescape, and it looked really. Like
It looked old-fashioned, even for the
that looked
time.
like some dude painted it. You know, like on a Saturday. We need an opening space shot. Oh shit!
How many planets? Each planet
What are we
$40.
I'll call Dale. Dale took an art class over the weekend. He did some flowers. It looked really good, so I think he can do planets.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you think that sci-fi is better served on an independent scale, not like an indie film, but down in that tighter scale that you were talking about, just to keep it's funny, like there's this balance you need, right? You want the budget to be such that you can keep studio meddling out of it, but then if your budget is too constrictive, you can't really it becomes hard to explore bigger ideas, I think, or at least portray a bigger landscape or universe.
Well, yeah, sort of. I guess if you look at Interstellar, which was this huge budget, you know, sci-fi film certainly of the year. It's got to be one of the bigger sci-fi films of the decade. You know, looked nice. Yeah. What was that about? What did you know? How did that inform me of anything? It didn't make me feel anything? It was, you know, it was an adventure film, I guess.
So at that point, now you get into like a different area though, because I think that just comes down to director clout. There are certain directors where it's like you're not allowed to tell them anything. You hire them to do what they do, because you know that whatever they come up with, they're probably going to make a shit zillion dollars.
Well, yeah, but who are we talking about here? Who's alive now and working?
Okay, so you brought up Interstellar.
Yeah.
And you know, now the name of the director escapes me, but
is it Nolan?
Yeah, that's right, Christopher Nolan. So you know,
he'd
done the very successful Batman
Inception,
trilogy,
right? Yeah,
he done Inception. So he was known for being able to tackle stories on a grand scale and dress it up with some sort of perceived emotional core. So it's not really an emotional core. It's like he's good at hitting those short circuit buttons in your brain that convince you that you're seeing something deep. But then if you really sit back and analyze what you've just watched, it's not deep. It's not deep. It's impressive. It's visually impressive.
Yeah.
He's kind of like a smart James Cameron.
Okay, so James Cameron's one. So I guess you've got James Cameron,
like Avatar, right?
Nolan, Fincher, Shyamalan.
I don't think Shyamalan
Okay, so they do
has the
exist.
clout that he used to.
Well, no, it definitely doesn't. He did have.
Oh,
Okay,
yeah,
okay, so
he
they
did at
do
one point,
exist.
and then he squandered it.
He did squander it, I think as well, but I think he squandered it sincerely. I think he genuinely, he genuinely tried
Yeah.
to do something.
You know what? I will give him that. No matter what it was he was doing, I don't think he was ever trying to do something commercial. I think he was being sincere.
I disagree there.
Unless there's a movie that you can think of where it's just like that is clearly. Just let's make some money.
I just think that's to do with his conflict, right? Is he was so commercially successful. Blah, blah, blah. I know spec. He was so commercially successful so early on, and I think he was hyper aware of that. And if you look at his earnings, they're very impressive, but they decrease from The Sixth Sense.
Yeah.
They don't consistently decrease. I think they sort of do that. But I don't know. It's sort of like, okay, you're going to do Lady in the Water, which is this sort of esoteric fantasy that you've devised yourself. It doesn't work, but okay, that seems like a sincere attempt to make art. But then you do the Last Airbender like that. It's very difficult sometimes for me to know what's going on.
I forgot that. I forgot that. I forgot the Last Airbender. Man, that had been completely scrubbed from my memory.
And the Will Smith movie where his son has to rescue him, which wasn't that bad, but it wasn't.
That felt more like a Shyamalan movie.
Did it?
Yeah, it did to me. Just because, there were certain scenes where I could see his fingerprints. Like, I remember I went to see that movie with my wife. Okay. And,
okay. Why?
Well, she quite likes Shyamalan.
Okay.
She likes a lot of his movies, and I do too. There's movies of his that I really enjoyed, not just the Sixth Sense. I can enjoy them knowing that there's really stupid things in them, right?
Me too. I enjoy
other
the tree
movies-
one with Marky Mark.
You like that one?
What? No.
I actually really like the idea.
Oh wow! I remember watching that movie just laughing.
No, I mean that's why I would watch it now. I love the person. Like, I think they're screaming, but they're just stood in front of a ride-on lawnmower, and what's going to happen, and it's just funny. No, I mean, I would watch it to laugh at it, but I'd still watch it.
That's true. There are movies of his that I will watch genuinely, and not like how I'm going to watch a good bad movie. You mentioned Lady in the Water. I happen to like that movie. I think that you don't. I don't. Look.
Okay, well, fair enough.
I don't think you can take it seriously when you watch it. But if you take it as just a simple fairy tale, for me it's okay. It's all right. It's not genius, and the idea that he's inserted himself into the film as this messianic writer that's going to save the planet. That's where your eyes start rolling back in your head. But just the characters that are created in that world, that movie, Paul Giamatti's character, I really enjoyed. Paul Giamatti's character, I really enjoyed.
I think
there
his
was
name's
also
John,
that guy
isn't
with the one really strong arm, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Constantly
the Guardian.
Masturbating. He was always masturbating.
That's what it looked. I mean, they must have made that joke, surely, but no. I think it's a really badly made movie, but
No, okay.
I think the attempt, I think what he was trying to do, I respect.
Yeah, I like. Another one we liked was Signs.
Right.
And again, dumb premise.
But some bits of it, yeah.
Some bits of it were very well done, and I think that's where, when Shyamalan's good, that's where he stands out is characters and character interactions and the quirkiness of those characters. It's just that, man, I don't want to sound like an asshole, but I don't think the man happens to be very smart, and he tries to write a lot smarter than he actually is. and I think
Okay.
he gets into trouble there. I do. I'm sorry, and I well, maybe it's either that he's not terribly intellectually up there, or he doesn't think his audience is. Because
Right.
I see him trying to sell ideas to the audience, and I just look at it and go, oh boy, that doesn't pass the sniff test. The thing that comes to mind immediately for me is the last one that he did, Glass. Was it Glass? Shit.
Glass
It was
shit.
either Glass. It was either Glass, or it was the one before that where James McAvoy is playing the multiple personality guy.
The Split, and then there's Glass. Isn't
Yes.
there? Yeah.
In one of
Is that
those
right?
movies, you had this psychiatrist who she's advancing, or she has to explain to the world and the audience why it is that James McAvoy has all of the powers that he does. And then she starts going into all of this mumbo jumbo about, you believe the mind is so powerful that you can climb a wall like Spider-Man.
The identities have different IQs. They have different physical strengths. One personality is a Russian weightlifter and can lift 3 times his body weight. Their ability to hyper-focus and have different experiences is astounding. Have these individuals, through their suffering, unlocked the potential of the brain? Is this the ultimate doorway to all things we call unknown?
If you believe you can. And he gives this hackneyed pseudo-scientific explanation, and I don't know if it's because he thought he had to have that, but I was pleased to just accept the fact, the dude climbed a wall, until he started explaining it to me.
I know what you mean.
And then I felt like, God damn it, man! Don't stop it. You don't need to do this. And then that's where I start questioning. It's like, are you dumb, or do you think I'm dumb? Which is it here?
It's sort of like in Lady in the Water, where there's a whole bit about how important Shyamalan's character is because he's sharing all these wonderful ideas. And it really, really comes across like he's talking about himself, or the film is talking about himself. And
That in the critic character,
character,
we're just going to gratuitously murder him off because it feels good.
I mean, it's a straw man of a critic.
He's a caricature.
Shyamalan must think that like film critics are people who hate movies, and the critic says,
well, they hate his movies.
They hate his movies. The critic says, nothing can be, there's no such thing as an original story, blah, 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 blah. And, Shyamalan sort of setting him up as, people who would always hate my ideas. And, yeah, it is a bit like, I can see what you're doing here. Did you not think that people would put 2 and 2 together? You're a filmmaker, aren't you, Shyamalan? Yes, you are.
It's hard to watch.
It is hard to watch, I
feel embarrassed for him when I see those aspects of that film. I just go, oh man, you shouldn't have done that. You should have, never. And I mean, it's so blatant. He's playing the part himself in the movie. You couldn't even cast another actor in that role. It's just, no, I'm going to be in this movie playing Jesus Saint Hemingway. I don't know.
Jesus Saint Hemingway.
Is it strange to have a character that saves the world through writing when we have what we have on the internet, and just anybody can write any crazy shit they want and people just follow it?
I don't know, but I think probably it's strange to have that and have them not save the world on screen. Like in a few years' time, you'll finish the book, later. And then you'll die, and then in 50 years' time, a kid who read your book will become a great orator.
Oh yeah.
Like, okay.
That's right. It wasn't even going to be him. So that shows that he is at least humble.
I think that's the intention, isn't it? It's not me. It's not me. I'm not important at all. I just influence Christ. I'm just more like a John the Baptist sort. Yeah, it is very sort of self-aggrandizing and
It's pretty rough.
transparent, I suppose.
It's almost it almost becomes opaque though. Like it goes through transparency and goes back to opaqueness because it's so on the nose that I'm second guessing myself when I'm watching it. Like,
You mean like maybe he's actually being super ironic?
like, is he screwing with me? I don't like I don't know how to take this. It's like this is so over the top. I feel like you're screwing with me.
You mean like
Like I'm being trolled right now.
Like
It's like I'm gonna come out after I see the movie and say, "Oh God, it's so awful how he positions himself as the savior of humanity," and then he jumps out of a closet somewhere and goes, "Ha! Got you! You fell into my trap."
like Neil Breen is somewhere making like $5,000 a night screening his shit films, and then he just gets into a Porsche and goes and watches opera, and he's like, "Ha, idiots." I was never deluded. I'm a businessman.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I don't think that is the case, to be honest.
No,
with
not in
him.
Shyamalan's case. I don't think he has enough self-awareness to pull off a joke that masterful.
I mean, mate, I don't know. They're sort of pretty harsh in Shyamalan. It's he's bless him. That's condescending, I suppose. Just
Yeah. Well, but
I'm glad he exists. I'm glad his films exist.
I mean, what's frustrating for me in his case is because you do see things in his films that are quite good. You see ideas, you see character interactions. I think he's just from an aspect of how scenes are set up, and how they're composed. I mean, it's clear he's got some talent. You know, there's things that he knows very much how to do, but it's like him and J.J. Abrams and others like him. It's like you need somebody who can just kind of stand off to the side, and just every once in a while you look at them, okay? And yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's like every once in a while you look at them, and if they're going like that, you kind of, maybe do something a little different. You just start kind of changing things until they go like that, and then all right, we're gonna keep going. You need somebody to tell you no.
Yeah, or even not just now, even just how about, and give you that out.
How about not?
Yeah, the thing is, yeah. I mean, you wonder, don't you, with people who are super successful, monetarily, and therefore, end up having all these people around them, who help them. How easy it must be to end up in a bubble of people saying this is a great idea, and then you're fucked.
If I ever got to that point, I won't, and frankly, I don't want to. I really don't care to. But if I had ever got to that point, I like to think that I would have the wherewithal to hire somebody whose whole job it is to just follow me around all day and tell me how shit my ideas are.
Steve behind you eating knickknacks.
Yeah, this is fucking terrible. I need somebody to be walking around me. That's terrible. Don't do that.
Never
Bad
giving
idea.
reasons why or anything. Just shit.
Yeah,
Shit.
you are a fraud. Stop it. And I just need that tempering. I don't want people running around. Oh man, it's genius. How many people are running around Hollywood being told what a genius they are?
Well, yeah, this is it. I don't think you do need someone to follow you around saying you're shit. I think it's just, detrimental
Maybe
to
just
have...
someone you respect.
Yeah, you're just someone to talk level, to be level with you. Like, yeah, this is good, but don't start thinking you're God or something.
Yeah. All right.
How did we get on to Shyamalan from Enemy Mine? Because there was a connection. Shyamalan makes films. Enemy Mine is a film.
I'm gonna have to go back and watch the discussion, and then I can let you know. I don't. It was a long trail of breadcrumbs that we followed to get here. All conversations end like this. I think they either end
Usually
on
with Star Wars.
Well, they either end on Shyamalan or the young ones. It's one or the other.
Well, is the young ones what we're doing next? Because I haven't watched it or anything. You know, I thought maybe we'd do it at some point and I'd save it. So if you want to do it, I'm up for it.
Oh shit.
Well, we don't have to. We don't have to.
No. You've just excited me. I've got the whole thing on DVD, and it needs those DVDs are in drastic need of watching.
Yes, you should watch it with your son, and force him to. You have, right?
Yeah,
you did say.
I watched it with he was probably, I'm gonna guess like 8 or 9. At the time that I watched it, and he loved it.
That's about the same age I was when I watched it with my dad.
I don't think he understood half of what was going on. Maybe less than half, because I mean, so many of those jokes are like they're in jokes. And your strange accents get a little thick in certain spots. It gets hard to understand. But
no, I mean, when did it come out? The 80s?
It was like 82, 83, right around there.
I won't have watched it until like the late 90s, so it was mostly lost on me as well.
I mean, yeah, there's a lot of Margaret Thatcher jokes.
A lot of Margaret Thatcher jokes,
but,
yeah.
And Cliff Richard.
that is funny. But
I just appreciated the zaniness of it. So for me, when they walk into a bedroom in their flat, and Buddy Holly is hanging upside down from the ceiling, tangled up in a parachute, that's hysterical to me, because everybody's reaction to him is very flat. It's like, of course there's Buddy Holly, and my son's laughing at it because there's just a strange man hanging from a parachute in there for no reason.
That's what I thought as well. Yes.
Yeah, and I'm like, yeah, but it's funny for a lot more reasons than that. You of course you explain it to somebody that young, and they just go, "You've ruined the joke now. This is no longer funny. Just shut up, Dad."
Yeah. I had the same reaction as your son. I didn't get those jokes. For me, that bit was funny because it's a man upside down and Mike walking into the room and putting on a cassette where it's like a man's voice going, "Oh, Mike, oh, stop touching me," or whatever. Like like the most bizarre like masturbatory aid that you can think of. But nothing's mentioned about that either. That was hilarious, And
that's the best part is that there's two punchlines happening at the same time. One has nothing to do. One is the punchline to a joke that nobody ever even told on the show. But the minute you see it, you get it. And they're not afraid to just... I'm not going to explain this to you. He's just here.
Yeah, so is that a yes then? You want to...
Oh, hell yeah.
Talk about that next time? Yeah, I'd love to do that.
I would, instead of our conversation eventually landing on the young ones at some point.
Yeah, let's just do it.
I would start the conversation on the young ones with you in a heartbeat.
Hello, boys.
Yeah, no problem, man.
I used to have a landlord that spoke exactly like that. Hello, boys.
Shirty Belaski?
Yeah, it was a woman. It was a woman. She was a woman who would let herself in to our house when I was a student. And it was that. It was harassment. It was way worse than Belovsky. Belovsky's amusing,
Yeah. So I'm trying to decide if he is someone that I would not feel threatened having just walk into my home, do a comedy routine because that's all that was. All that was a chance for Alexi Sale to come in and do a comedy routine and then go away. But
this is a song about black and white people living together on pianos. Yeah, stuff like that, just nonsense. Yeah, I really liked it. Okay, well, that's great. We'll do that one. We'll do that.
I'll get that business queued up. Oh my God, I'm gonna go through all those episodes. Okay, so, well, we'll talk again in like 4 or 5 months.
Yeah. After the, Crisis 3 and 4.
Oh God. This has been a lovely 2-hour conversation where I was not thinking about any of that at all.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Yeah. Do not mention what's happening outside.
You bastard.
You bastard. Do we have anything else to say about Enemy Mine then?
I'm trying to think about it. Let me go through these notes here. Greyhound buses are still a thing. Attacked by the pit lizard. I love this. Space turtle shell is meteor proof.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it got to a point where I was just writing
mistakes.
Well, not mistakes, but just you know. At first, I was very thoughtful in my notes, like, oh, you know, the comparison of this versus that, and then I think my notes went down the same path that the movie did.
Yeah, the movie sort of lost interest in itself, didn't it?
Well, yeah, yes. Like, let me let me give you a quick right in the beginning, right? I'm okay. Nations of the earth are finally at peace, and then I go into this long thing about people didn't the type of growth as a species you would have to have for the population of an entire planet to get along, but then how that doesn't make sense with going to attack the alien, you know, the implications and how funny it makes the setup for this whole movie seem.
Yeah.
And it doesn't. And then I got over to this page, and it's a 3-word sentence. Jerry is pregnant.
Yes, he is.
Jerry is pregnant. I was kind of like noting out things as they happen in sequence, so like we could follow the path of the movie if we wanted to. Scavengers discovered. Jerry is pregnant. Sand lizard attack. I mean, but by that point, I cared exactly as much as the people who had made the film.
Yeah, it very much seemed like the themes they wanted to explore were done with Jerry's death, and the rest of it was, I don't know, just here's a bit more.
Yeah. It feels like this movie loses its direction or its purpose about halfway through, and that is with the death of Louis Gossett. It's his exit from the movie where it's like we don't have a reason to be here anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I said. Like read it. The last couple of notes I wrote was Birth of Zammies. I hate to lose Louis Gossett Jr. from this movie. And then right after that, I wrote someone hit the fast forward button.
Yeah.
And that was the last thing I wrote about the movie, because all the rest of it, you know, the kid, the playing football, the slavers, the rescue, the tacked on ending, I could not be inspired to write another thing about what I was seeing. I was just like, okay, things are happening. I didn't remember the ending being that clunky.
It was clunky,
You know?
wasn't it? Yeah.
When I came back to watch it, I was like, oh, probably because I was being so hypercritical, you know, with a pen and you know, I'm gonna note this as I'm watching it. I'm going, man, I remember this part being better.
Yeah. I know what you mean. Yeah, it was it was weird for me because I remember, you know, as a teenager when I watched it for the first time, you know, liking it and sort of really liking that this sort of thing could exist. Like, oh wow, you know, it's sort of
and to clarify, I still like the movie and I'm still happy it exists.
I'm still happy it exists. Yeah, and
for as much as we beat the hell out of it, I think we both enjoyed quite a lot of it.
Yeah, I enjoyed quite a lot of it. You know, the themes, but you know, it's not a movie I'll watch again for a long time. Not because I didn't hate it or anything. It wasn't that. It's just, you know, I felt like I got as much as I could out of it. Yeah, I got it.
It's not like you're going to go back and catch something that you missed on the first viewing.
Yeah, to be honest, the next time I watch it, I'll probably stop after he dies.
I caught something that I missed on the first viewing, and that is that Jerry had a very strange tale.
He did have a strange tale, didn't he? Yeah, I forgot about that as well.
The first thing I thought when he was coming out of that lake was, where does he put that thing when his pants are on?
Or does he have a hole in it? Hole in his pants?
It looks tremendously uncomfortable to pack that thing into a pair of pants.
I guess, you know, if that was your physiology, you wouldn't wear pants as we know them.
Yeah, I mean,
that's where sci-fi should take us next.
I mean,
pants.
Do you stick it down the right leg? Do you stick it down the left leg? Do they have tail pockets that are just, you know, sewn
maybe
for them?
Jerry had a third leg in his pants for his tail, for his enormous tail. Yeah.
That's a shame. Well endowed with no reason to use it.
But yeah, I just wanted to say that I don't think it does it justice to call it a buddy movie, but a buddy movie is as near as I can sort of put it if we're going to categorize stuff. And
that's a great point. I was thinking about this before we were getting ready to talk, and I was wondering then, how do I categorize this film? If I try to put it into a box, what do I say it is? And then I decided I'm just going to ask George to do that.
Can you imagine if in Bill and Ted, Bill dies, like an hour in, and then the rest of it is just Ted in a phone booth, like looking ahead, like quite sadly, like. Socrates, is it? Yeah. Would you help me with that? Oh, just get in. I mean,
no
it's
more
not that,
musical
but
score after that, it's just
no.
There's like this. There's almost like a subsonic bass rumble.
Yeah.
That's all you hear, and it's just him staring out the window.
Yeah, it's just this dead stare of someone who's in the second week of mourning. Just
yeah. You just hear this. You hear the rumble that's meant to be the screaming inside of his mind. That's the soundscape of the film at that point.
Yeah, it's just Ted and his little brother, and they're sort of holding hands and silently going through history. There's no hijinks or anything. They're both kind of sad. It's not like that. That actually sounds more amusing than what happens to Enemy Mine, but it is a bizarre choice.
Sounds more amusing than what happens at the end of Bill and Ted.
It does, yeah. Do you think Socrates really would love America? Doubt.
God. Yeah. You know what? That is a problem with Bill and Ted, is how badly they misconstrued Socrates. I think they got him wrong. I don't think he would have been sucked into the commercialism.
Yeah, maybe he doesn't say that though. Maybe he doesn't he say I love San Dimas or something? So maybe, I don't know. That's the problem with Bill and Ted. Not enough Napoleon. They should have got Ian Holm in to play Napoleon, and it should have revolved around him. So that's our discussion on Bill and Ted 3.
That movie. So you're thinking Ian Holm as he played Napoleon in Time Bandits.
Yeah, obviously, yes.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah. And
just rattling off past conquerors and their heights.
No, and the one thing that he does that isn't apart from that is make a big speech about how he's appalled that the Republic of the Future hasn't sorted out racism, as France has done, with its Haitian possession, right, or something. I don't know. Never mind. Okay, maybe not that. So they go and get George Washington, and he's a proper racist. How about that?
I think I think we've landed on the only conclusion that we can for Enemy Mine, is that Ian Holm should have played Napoleon in Bill and Ted,
and had a much bigger part in it.
Bill and Ted and Napoleon should have been the movie.
Or Rufus could have had a bit of side action with Ian Holm as Napoleon.
Did you think?
Oh, and then Robbie Coltrane could play Queen Victoria. Wouldn't that would work? No, it would. Think about it, right? He's got the lines and everything.
It's funny because he's big.
I didn't mean that he's funny because he's big. Yeah.
Little Victoria. Oh, see that's how they bring her in on a little plate. Queen Victoria, set her down.
What? But it's like a 4-inch high Robbie Coltrane. I'm sorry, everyone. I think that there's a gas leak in my room.
I don't know. I haven't even drunk anything tonight, and here we are.
I'm just talking out utter shit. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Man.
And Sylvester Stallone is, I don't know, who do we like? John Adams or something, one of the founding fathers.
No, give him all the oration.
Yes, give him. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, give him all of the oration.
Anything that requires long stretches of narration, give that to Sly.
Yeah.
And then we'll have Anthony Hopkins playing a mute.
Anthony Hopkins as a mute. And then Arnold Schwarzenegger as Plato. when they bring him in. Yeah, well, okay, well, one last thing. Do you remember The Last Action Hero? Do you remember the sort of trailer in The Last Action Hero of Hamlet? Of Arnold Schwarzenegger's Hamlet?
Yes.
Do you not think that... Not to be.
Not to be.
They should have made that. I'd have watched that.
I'd watch the ass out of that.
Yeah, I'd watch the ass out of it.
It has to be like just that. Like
just that.
Whoever it was who made that trailer, just give him all the money and just blow this up into an entire movie. And then we get to watch Arnold Schwarzenegger doing the Hamlet monologue.
Like they actually use, or it's all Shakespeare. They don't cut any of it out. You know, most of it is him in a room or rating.
It's not paraphrased or the language isn't updated. You just have him performing the actual fucking Shakespeare. Then okay.
But it's got this incredible
I was going to be.
It's got this subtext of like he's Arnold Schwarzenegger. He's 7 feet tall and hulking with muscles, and he's just like when he's giving these monologues and soliloquies, he's just staring at people like he's gonna rip their arms off, and no one says anything about
scenery. It. he's walking up to like a rock.
But you were thinking more like simplified Shakespeare, like you killed my father, now I kill you.
Well, yes, that you and I think we take two different tacks, right? Because for you, and I agree.
The Shakespeare's important for me. That's right. Yeah, I'm old school like that.
It's funny that he has to deliver that language. That's one kind of joke, right? The other joke is that you just take him and transplant him into the play, and everybody else is doing like perfect Shakespeare, right? You get trained Shakespearean actors.
You get like Alan Rickman and people like that, and
then Arnold is just doing paraphrased shit.
Alan Rickman gives him this big thing, and then Arnold Schwarzenegger just breaks a chair on his head.
Yeah. I should kill him, but he's praying.
I don't.
I'll wait.
Honestly, I'm quite conflicted. Yeah.
It's either that or he's just, doing the Arnold's.
Yeah, and then George Carlin can, weave it all together with, the narration. He's
George
the narrator.
Carlin drops onto the stage in a phone booth, comes out.
Because it's all on a stage. It's a televised play. It's not really a film. Yes. Well, why hasn't this been made? Honestly, right? If someone made that would make money. That would make more money than the movies they're putting out now, which take themselves incredibly seriously and are utter shit.
God, I know, right?
I watched one the other day with...
I wish somebody has the ball. The only reason it hasn't been made, though, is honestly it's because Arnold's too old now. Otherwise, it would have been done.
Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah. Yeah, maybe you could have him... Maybe, not Hamlet then. Maybe Arnold as King Lear. Or something.
Oh, my. Or yeah. I'm trying to pick... Well... Okay. I think... You know what? I think I'm going to stop this recording now. But okay. I just had a thought that I wanted to ask you about, but it has nothing to do with Enemy. Watch Enemy Mine. That's a fun movie. It's good.
Yeah. It's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all right. It's, I don't know. I would say pretty much when anyone asks me to make a recommendation, I just say, just look at the movie. Do you think you'd like it?
Yeah.
Try it
out. Try it out. The ending is probably more satisfying than a Shyamalan ending. Leave it at that.